What is going on, everybody? My name is Nico and welcome back to another competitive Pokemon video. Today is a very interesting one because I'm going to be talking about one Pokemon specifically, and that is Zacian and how to counter it in the Series 12 VGC format. I think this is an important video to do mainly because, you know, we have VGC Series 12 for the rest of the year, and at least until Pokemon Scarlet and Violet come out and introduce new formats. But until August, we have this format, and Zacian is a dominating factor in this particular format. As you can see here on Peakalytics, it's rocking a 60% usage rate, which is absolutely nuts. This Pokemon is crazy good in this particular format, and you're going to see a ton. It's worth bringing up this particular video, and I'm going to cover a bunch of stuff on how to counter it, certain Pokemon that are very good into it, you know, a bunch of stuff like that, because, you know, we have these international challenges that are coming up that give us the legendary birds, the shiny birds. We already had one in February. The next one is next week, and some people may actually want to, you know, use this opportunity to get into competitive Pokemon and start playing and actually compete in these tournaments, rather than just, you know, take, you know, a bunch of baby Pokemon and then just wipe 3 times to get the shiny. So I wanted to bring this up. So if this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more Pokemon content from me in the future. But let's get into it. So like I said, Zacian is a 60% usage rate in the current format. It's just stupid good, and it's a very strong Pokemon, but I think it's worth talking about why it is so good right now. So if you just look at its base stats, obviously this is a strong candidate for it being good alone. It's very defensive. It's got wicked attack stat, base attack, and pretty high base speed stat. So it's just all around a very strong Pokemon. But then you throw in on top of it the fact that it gets Behemoth Blade and it's not a Dynamax candidate. It handles pretty much every Dynamax Pokemon very effectively because of Behemoth Blade doing double damage into it with 100 power. But then on top of that, you know, just your typing, the Intrepid Sword ability where you come in and you get a raised attack stage. Like, this Pokemon's very good. It leaves other Pokemon available for Dynamax opportunities, so you don't have to waste one of your restricted Pokemon for that. There's just a million and one reasons why this Pokemon is good. It's got pretty decent coverage options into a lot of stuff that's played right now. So like Sacred Sword's very good. Play Rough's very good on it. It does also get things like substitutes. You can run some cheeky sets. This Pokemon's just super good all around, and that's why it has that insanely high usage stat. But there are ways to play around it, which I think are important, because like I said, you're going to see a ton of it. You're going to see 1,000 different Zacians in your particular online play endeavors, and it just is something you have to address. So there are a number of ways you can handle this Pokemon, and, you know, there's a couple big Pokemon that come to mind immediately. The first one being Incineroar. Maybe if I can spell Incineroar. Incineroar is a huge candidate for handling Zacian. Obviously, Zacian does have access to Sacred Sword and Play Rough, both super effective into Incineroar, but Incineroar being so naturally bulky helps it out a lot, especially because you're building Incineroar for bulk. You're building it to take hits, and usually you're running, you know, a Citrus Berry or a Figgy Berry or something of that nature on this Pokemon. So you're going to be able to get health back after you take a hit, plus the Intimidate. The Intimidate's the big thing on this particular Pokemon, because when you switch it in, you're going to be able to pretty much remove the Intrepid Sword from Zacian altogether, giving you an advantage. This Pokemon still hits like a truck without Intrepid Sword, but having that ability to get rid of that bonus is super nice. Also, it does have attacks that are super effective into it, Flare Blitz being the big one. You are going to hit hard with Incineroar because it has a base 115 attack stat, so you're going to hit pretty hard into Zacian if it comes down to having to use Incineroar offensively. But it, you know, having access to things like Fake Out, where you're able to stop Zacian from attacking altogether, but also having access to things like Parting Shot. I don't know why I thought it was Play Rough. Having access to things like Parting Shot, being able to lower that attack stat once again, and then reintroduce Incineroar to the fight and get another Intimidate off. You're giving yourself a lot of opportunities to weaken that Zacian and make it less of a threat. So Incineroar is a huge one. Other Pokemon that are going to handle it fairly well, any other Intimidate user is very nice into it, but, you know, Landorus is one specifically that is super nice because you have access to ground type attacks, which are super effective into Zacian, so that's really nice as well. Especially right now, you know, a lot of people are running it with like a Assault Vest, so you can U-turn your Lando and just keep intimidating that way. and that's super nice for keeping Zacian at bay. Now, Zacian will still knock out both these Pokemon very easily, but these are just ways that you can handle that particular Pokemon. A type that works very well into Zacian is water types. Water types play very well into this Pokemon because it does still hit pretty hard, and you know, you're going to be able to do some decent damage into Zacian with a bunch of water types. For one, Kyogre is super big. If you can get yourself, oh, not Primal, we don't have Primal anymore. If you can get a water spout off into the Zacian slot, you're going to do big damage, especially if you, or even an Origin Pulse. But a lot of people are choosing to Scarf their good old Kyogre these days, so you're going to be able to do big damage. Plus, you're typically pairing this Pokemon with things like, you know, Whimsicott or Thundurus, where you're going to be using that Tailwind capability, and that's going to help you out a lot in terms of getting that speed that you need to knock out Zacian with a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse. So there is the option to hit it very hard with that. Another option is Palkia. Palkia is very good into this. It does have the weakness of a Play Rough into it, which, you know, does pretty significant damage, but if you look at its defensive stats, you're going to be able to take some pretty big hits with Palkia, and typically you are building a little bulkier with Palkia versus building speed. It does have 100 base speed, so you don't really have to worry about that. Throwing points into your defensive stats is going to give you a lot more benefit, and you're going to be able to take those hits. So using Palkia into Zacian is pretty effective. Like I said, there is that super effective weakness that can cause problems, but all in all, you know, having access to Hydro Pump, a lot of people are running this with Life Orb right now. Doing things like this, and you know, pairing it with like a Rain Dance or even a Kyogre or something that sets the rain for you, you're gonna be able to hit very hard with a Dynamax, you know, maxed Hydro Pump there, and you're gonna do pretty significant damage into the Zacian slot. But the big Pokemon that comes to mind, if you really don't want to use Zacian but want to have that Steel type as well, is Solgaleo. Solgaleo plays very well into Zacian, and I think it's probably one of its strongest counters right now because of things like weakness policy and the fact it gets Full Metal Body. A lot of people are running Incineroars because of the Zacian's present, so having access to Full Metal Body and not having to worry at all about, you know, taking that Intimidate on an attack damage Pokemon is super nice. Behemoth Blade's not going to do as much damage to you if you do Dynamax this Pokemon because you are Steel type already. It's still going to do decent damage because it's Zacian, but it takes the hit and kind of shrugs it off, and it gets access to things like Earthquake, so max quaking into Zacian is super good with this Pokemon, especially because, you know, a lot of Incineroars and other Pokemon that are big in the format right now are like Yveltal and things like that are going to proc your weakness policy for you, and you're going to be able to just OHKO Zacian with this Pokemon. So I think in terms of the restricted Pokemon, the best candidate for actually handling a Zacian is Solgaleo. Another viable option, let me get all these out of the way here. Another viable option is just running your own Zacian, because Zacian is so defensive already. Just dumping points into its attacks, well, its HP stat, instead of, you know, dumping into attack and speed, you're able to pretty much take a hit from another Zacian and do big damage. You may not knock it out in one hit, but, you know, hitting it with a Behemoth Blade is still going to do decent damage, and you're going to be able to chip that away and make it less of a threat in the late game, which is pretty nice. Now, in terms of like actual strategies that are very good into Zacian, Trick Room is the biggest one that comes to mind. Trick Room stops Zacian dead in its tracks simply because it's just super fast. Like, it just set up Trick Room, and Zacian will struggle. So I really like Porygon right now. Yes, they can Sacred Sword into you. A lot of them are also thinking about running Close Combat right now, so Close Combat can be pretty dangerous if they do decide to go that route instead of Sacred Sword. But if you can get a Trick Room up on Zacian, it is a problem for Zacian all around, just because of its speed stats. So you can like pair Porygon with Incineroar and Flare Blitz into it, and you're pretty much guaranteeing you, if you double into Zacian, you're knocking that Pokemon out. So it's pretty nice in that regard for setting it up. Other things that are going to help you out a lot are things like screens. Setting screens is just going to help you out a lot. Not necessarily light screen, but like Reflect with a Light Clay on a Grimmsnarl can be super effective. Because you're just, you know, lowering the amount of damage that you're going to be taking from Zacian hits through that method. Other Pokemon that are really nice right now, Gmax Lapras, wherever it's at, I don't even know, let me look. Lapras, there it is, Gmax. This Pokemon's super good because, you know, normally you're running like Freeze Dry on it, so you can handle any water types that come your way. But the big thing is Gigantamaxing this Pokemon and setting up Aura-Veil through that method with the Ice type attack. So you set both screens at the same time while also, you know, doing pretty big damage. You know, Ice type's very good offensively. So going into that particular Pokemon, setting both screens and potentially doing huge damage to any Pokemon on the field is a great way to handle Zacian. Now, Lapras can be scary into a Zacian simply because Zacian does have a lot of moves that will do super effective damage into Lapras, but you know, some people do like to be cheeky and run like a weakness pile on Lapras or things of that nature. So it's just something you got to be mindful, but Lapras can be very effective into a team carrying a Zacian. It's also very good right now into Kyogre, so it's like a 2-for-1 in that regard because you're running like things like Hydro Pump, Thunder, or Thunderbolt on this Pokemon. And with Water Absorb, Kyogre can't really touch you aside from if it uses its own Thunder or Thunderbolt. And with a weakness pile or just throwing some points into the defensive stats, you're going to be able to take that hit and do pretty big damage still. So Lapras is a very great Gigantamax option on so many different teams. Also pairing it with a Zacian is very nice. So that is another really, really good option. But that's your real counters to this Pokemon. Things with Intimidate, you know, make sure you got your typing advantages. Solgaleo is super good into it. Water hits it very hard. So taking all those things into account, Trick Room, all those things is going to help you out a lot. But that is all I have for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on participating in these challenges, you know, to compete for your shiny birds, or if you're just taking baby Pokemon. I want to know what everybody's up to in Sword and Shield right now. But that is it for this one. If you found it entertaining and helpful, make sure you leave a like and smash that subscribe button for more Pokemon content from me in the future. And I hope to see you all in the next one.